Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Narayan.
Thank you, Bhunaji. So, welcome back. We were discussing one of the most important topic of our culture in the last class. Who is God? What is God? What is the nature of the God? So these verses of chapter 9, starting from verse 4 to verse 9, we need to go beyond the literal meaning, and we need to contemplate upon that in detail, so that once we cover these verses up to verse 9, we should have a good understanding of the God. Who is the God of the cosmos? A description or a teaching that really challenges us. A description or a teaching that won't treat as kids. Remember last week we started discussing the fact that we all had a worldview when we were kids. But definitely that worldview got changed. Initially, like as a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, we used to think that the parents are omniscient, isn't it? Anything you try to hide, they know, somehow they come to know that. But over a period of time, our maturity went up, and that changed our view and understanding of almost everything we thought, right? Initially, we thought the earth was flat, but when we started studying the science, that belief got corrected. But most of the times, for most of the people, their idea or understanding of the God remains as childish. Remember, we talked about that last week. I just wanted to, I'm contemplating upon that, right? Please think through this. As a child, who is God for me? It's a kind of a broker who help me to get things done. We were joking in the last session. In India, like when you want to get something done, you try to approach a power broker or a power person who has power, like a MLA or MP or a collector. Then through him, you get things done. Most of our idea of God is like that. You don't seek, or we don't seek, just like the child sees something as a means to get something else. We see God as a means for getting small things. There is nothing wrong in that. I'm not saying that. But understand that it is a childish understanding. Just like our worldview or understanding about the other aspect changed and got improved, matured, our understanding of God has not grown up. And most of the culture also teaches like that. There is a God, you pray to that God. That is the teaching. Even in Hindu culture, some sets try to do that. You cannot question it. You just believe it and pray to that God. And why do you pray to that God? That's the most interesting fact. What is the ultimate goal for most of the people?
Your desire, your wish.
Going to heaven, right?
Oh.
Ultimate goal. Of course, the temporary goal is fulfill my local desires. Avoid certain problems coming to me. Like if there is a finance problem, avoid it. If there is a health problem, avoid it. all those things, and eventually go to heaven. Have you ever thought? Why do you go to heaven?
No discomfort.
No discomfort and extreme sense pleasure. Look at the description of heaven in our Puranas as well as the other scriptures. And that's why Krishna himself ridicules this idea of heaven, right? He said, Bhogaishwarya gadim prati. You go there for what? Sensual pleasure, bhoga, and power. You want to control everything, and you want to... And isn't it childish? It's good to attract a child, but that's not the highest vision of God. Luckily, in our culture, we do have that comprehensive discussion of God. Who is God? And let's pay our attention and try to understand these verses as best as we can. The reason I'm talking all these things is just to highlight the importance of these verses from 4 to 9. Let's try to understand that. A literal meaning of this would just confuse us. It will not give us the whole idea. Last week, we started that discussion, and we're going to continue that discussion today. So please give me some time to cover these verses. We may not meet our 3-verse goal when we go up to verse 9, but this is the summary of the entire Upanishads. So, and once we cover up to verse 9, we may even pause and try to recap and make sure that our understanding is cemented and it is very clear, because otherwise, that is the beauty of these verses. So with that, let's listen to the chanting. Anu, if you don't mind, let's chant from verse 4 to 9.
Sure. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Navamodhyayah Rajavidya Rajaguhya Yogaha Maya tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ jagadavyaktamūrtinā sthāni sarvabhūtāni na cāhaṃ teṣvavasthitaḥ na ca sthāni bhūtāni pasya me yogamayishvaram bhūtabhrinna ca bhūtasthah mamatma bhūtabhāvanah yatha kāshasthito nityam vāyus sarvatra gomahan tatha sarvāni bhūtāni sthāni ityupadhāraya sarvabhūtāni kaunteya prakritim yanti māmikām kalpakshaye punasthāni kalpādau visrajāmyaham prakritim svāmavashtabhya visrajāmi punah punah bhūtagramamimam kritsnam avasham prakritervashat na ca mam tani karmani nibadhanti dhananjaya udasinavadasinam asaktam teshu karmasu.
Excellent. These are masterpieces in the history of humanity when you consider the understanding of God. So we spent a lot of time last week trying to understand verse 4. So let's chant that one more time, and then we go to verse 5.
Maya tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ jagadavyaktamūrtinā sthāni sarvabhūtāni na cāhaṃ teṣvavasthitaḥ.
Excellent. So maya meaning me, sarvamidam sarvam. Tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ, sorry, tadam idam sarvam. I pervades everything. That's the literal meaning. All this world is jagata, means mayā tatamidaṃ sarvam jagadaha. I pervade the entire universe. How? Avyaktamūrtinā, in the unmanifested form. Then what? Very interestingly, right? Krishna tells, I am exist in all being. Sthāni sarvabhūtāni, and navaham teṣvavasthitaḥ. That's the beauty. So I exist in all being, but I am not dependent on them. So let's come back and try to understand a little bit more, or at least recap. Please stop me if you don't understand this, because I'm just trying to recap what we covered in the last class. So when you think about God, there are two aspects of God. One is called para, the other one is called apara. In English or in the Western literature, the closest terminology is transcendent, and the other one is immanent. These words, the transcendent and immanent, we borrow that from the Western philosophy. Typically, these words are coming from the Greek language, and the English words were created out of it. Transcendent literally means beyond. Immanent means immediate. So when you think about the God, there are two aspects. One is the immanent form of the God. Second one is the transcendent form of the God. To demonstrate this, we took the example of Swapna Drishtanta. So we explained this concept very well in the Swapna Drishtanta. So let's think through that once again. Let's go through that example once again, and please pay full attention and try to visualize this. And if you have any doubt, please raise the hand and let's discuss. So let's say that I am sleeping in my bed in North Brunswick. So there is an order of reality. The order of reality means I live in this world. The time and space is this time and space. And in my dream, I have I went to sleep and there is a dream. And in that dream, I am also a character. All of you are sitting near me. And let's say that we are conducting a satsang at Gangotri or Uttarkashi. We see the Ganga flowing. We see the snow-covered mountains, and we feel the cold. And you listen to me, and I listen to you. And we eat food, and we are enjoying a lot of transactions. All that is a reality. But two different orders. Let's say that when I was sitting in Gangotri or Uttarkashi, I got a donation for Project Self for $1,000. And I took my phone and scanned that and put that in the account. Tomorrow morning when I get up here, if I look at the bank, that money won't be there. And nobody has any doubt about it. This is very much normal. You say that, what is there to think? But when I was in that other world, other space, other time, it was true for me. So these are two different orders of reality. Point number one. Now, second point is, who created that dream space and dream time? Think through that.
You did.
I did. And in that dream space, Rohitji was there, Gina was there, everybody was there. Not just the human beings, but again, the plant was there, animal was there, river was there, I see a sun, and there are some laws of nature also was there. If I can fly in a dream, that means that flying is in according to the rules that governs the dream world. So the whole space, the whole time, the whole beings, the rules that governs that space and time, where it exists. Think through that.
In your mind?
In me. Correct? So let's say that the Rohitji in that dream asking a question to the Rajesh in that dream. The Rohitji in that dream for me is imminent, because it is directly accessible to me. It is directly available to me in that time and space. This is not very complicated, right? Even though it appears to be very complicated. The Rohitji in that dream can directly interact with Rajesh of that dream easily. But the Rohitji in that dream cannot interact with the Rajesh in this world. Is that make sense?
Yeah.
It is beyond. So with respect to the Rohitji of that dream, the Rajesh in the real world is transcendent. With respect to a person in that dream, the creator of that world is the Rajesh lying on the bed. With respect to a person in that dream, the sustainer of the world is the person lying on that bed. And there is no way for the person in the dream to experience and understand the scope and the depth of the person lying in the dream, in the bed. So with respect to the people of the dream, the person lying on the bed is beyond the direct reach. That is why it is called transcendent. Whereas I can easily transact with the bank in the dream. I can easily transact with the Ganga in the dream. I can easily transact with the other people in the dream. But my transaction and interaction is completely limited to the dream space and the dream time. In other words, I cannot experience or I cannot interact beyond the order of reality I am confined to. Is that clear?
Yeah, Rajesh.
Excellent. This is the most complicated thing. So now extend that example. So please, by any way, don't think that the world is a dream of God. Please, that's not the idea. It is just an example, just like this. Now, I want to bring a few more points here. Where exactly this dream world, dream time, dream people, and the dream object exist? In my mind. Who is the creator of that world? Me. Who is the sustainer of that world? Me. Finally, where it comes back? In me. And can I say that? Mayā tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ jagadavyaktamūrtinā. In every atom of that dream world, I pervade. Because everything is happening in me. Mayā tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ. But what? As avyaktamūrti. Who perverts there? That is not directly reachable by the dream people. So that is why the word avyakta is used. Actually, I was just noting down what Shankaracharya tell. He tell like avyaktamūrti means he is one who is not revealed by the sense organs and the other means of knowledge. That's what Shankaracharya wrote. So, who is pervading in the dream world? What is the dream matter and what is the dream energy? What is everything in the dream is from my mind. It is me. So I pervade every objects in the dream. Who created? Like the sun in the dream is created in my mind. It exists in my mind. So my mind perverts everything. But in a avyaktamūrti, in an unmanifested form, because it cannot be directly reachable. Then, Anu, can you chant that next line? Mayā tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ jagadavyaktamūrtinā.
sthāni sarvabhūtāni.
Yeah, that's good. Sthāni sarvabhūtāni. Every being exists in me. Think about that. The plant, the Ganges, the building, the bank, other people, everything exists in me. What is the next line? Na cāhaṃ
teṣvavasthitaḥ.
But I am not confined to them, even though they exist in me. Yeah, the scope of the person lying on the bed, what I do, what I have the reach, which is much beyond these beings. So extend this example. The God has two forms. One is the transcendent form, which is known as para. Right? Para-Brahman, you call it as. The God in its absolute form is known as Para-Brahman. Nirguna Para-Brahman. There is no form, nothing. It's only reality. It's only the existence. So from that Para-Brahman, or in that Para-Brahman, what happens? This projection happens. This projection happens. So the Para-Brahman is transcendental. The Nirguna Para-Brahman, or the God in its ultimate form, is beyond our reach. It is like a person in a dream trying to understand the person, the dreamer, the actual dreamer. So it is a different order of reality. So that is the highest form of God. But there is an immanent form of the God. So the world we see, right? The total body, there is a total form, there is a total mind, and there is a total intellect, and there is a total consciousness of the world that is manifested. And that is what is known as Ishvara in its lower form, in the immanent form, which is directly accessible to us. But understand that even that is confined to the space and the time. So this is the two form. One is the transcendent, the other one is the immanent. And only we can directly experience the immanent form. The transcendent, of course, you can try to understand through Vedanta. And when you understand that transcendent form, the dream becomes a lucid dream. That is why this one example of Swapna Drishtanta can reveal the teachings of the entire Vedanta. So let's try to understand that verse once again. Maya. So I know, can you chant it as 4
Yeah.
quarters?
Mayā tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ.
That's good. So everything you see is pervaded by me. So Krishna talking from the point of view of the absolute reality, Brahman, Parabrahman. He tells everything you see is pervaded by me. So think about that. You're saying that yesterday I had a wonderful dream and everything in that dream is pervaded by me. And how do I pervade everything? Next line, Anu.
Jagadavyaktamūrtinā.
Everything, Jagat. Mayā tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ Jagat. The entire world is pervaded by me. How? Avyaktamūrtinā. The mountain I see in the dream, the Ganga I see in the dream, the other person I see in the dream is in reality, who is that person? Who is that mountain? It's the person lying in the bed. It is his projection. So that is why Avyaktamurti. But when I see that Ganges, I see the Ganges in the dream, Ganga in the dream, but I fail to see that it is, really speaking, it is the mental projection of the Rajesh lying down in the bed. So that is why the word, look at the word Krishna uses. Every word has its own deep significance. Deep significance. So Maya tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ jagadavyaktamūrtinā. Now the third line. Again, I'm trying to make sure that you understand that. That's why I'm going through each of these quarter one by one. Next line.
Sthāni sarvabhūtāni.
Every being, sarvabhūtāni, sthāni, exist in me. True? Think about that example. The plant is in me. The other person is in me. The shop is in me. Everything is in me. But last couplet.
Shall I?
The last portion, the last quarter.
Na cāhaṃ teṣvavasthitaḥ.
But I am not confined to this objects alone. My real nature is much beyond that. This is the meaning. So Krishna, speaking from the Parabrahman or the absolute reality, he tells, the world you see is nothing but pervaded by me. I am the existence of all the objects in an unmanifested form. You cannot recognize that through your sense organs. Every being in the universe exists in me, but I am not confined to them or dependent on them. Can you show me something similar which can even compare to this in our world literature, scriptural literature? It's just impossible. This is the most profound, means of course this might be there, but you cannot improve upon this. Now, complicating matter further. See, the language of paradox is common in scriptures. So now let's see the next verse. But before that, any questions? Because I really want these 6 verses, every word is clear to you. So can you look at the verses and see if there is any doubt? All the quarters.
Rajesh, go ahead, Bhuvanaji.
No. You go ahead, ma. You go ahead.
Thank you. The last one, I do not confine in them, it's still there, right?
It's still there, but I'm not just in that only.
Not
That,
limited. Yeah.
I'm not limited in that, right?
got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Why
I
Krishna
have the
said, I'll
same
give
thing.
you a real good example. Now I'll take a moment and explain that. So in the world religion, right? This is a small diversion, but you understand why Krishna added that. Probably thinking much ahead. So when you think about these religious tradition, right? Originally these Europeans try to fit different religions into different categories. You might have heard that monotheistic, polytheistic, right? So these are some of the word used. So the people, monotheistic is typically used to refer, what is monotheistic? Mono means what?
Single.
One.
Single.
Single.
Theo means about God, right? Theo again, Greek word. All these Western terminologies comes from the Greek words. Theo means God. That's why theology means study of God. So monotheistic means God, one God. Now polytheistic means what? You might have heard that terminology also. Polytheistic.
Many gods.
Yeah.
Many
Many
gods and many forms.
Many gods, right? Multiple gods. So when these ancient Germans, because the first people studied the Indian scriptures were German people, like Max Muller, that type of people. These European scholars from Germany came to India and they tried to understand what exactly is the Hindu religion is and what exactly. You know, how did they classify the Hindu religion?
Polytheistic.
Polytheistic. And even I was just reading some of the descriptions on Hinduism in some of the textbooks here. They call it as polytheistic.
Meaning,
Polytheistic means many gods exist. One is different from other.
meaning between religion to religion, or
No, within one religion. If one religion tells that there are many gods, for example, the ancient Greek religion. See, there was all these Jupiter, Juno, then there is a wind god. Everybody used to fight each other. It is different. One is different from other. So these Indologists, these ancient researchers on the Indian spiritual studies, they are known as Indologists. Max Muller is one among them. So he used to say that, okay, they used to classify this ancient Indian religion as polytheistic. So now you tell me which category we belongs to. Is that monotheistic or polytheistic?
monotheistic.
But Rajesh, Dvaita with Vedanta says multiple gods, right?
God means, no, Vedanta never said multiple gods. Multiple deities are there.
If I differentiate between Dvaita and Advaita, the definition, by definition, does it say that like one God versus many gods?
No. Dvaita and Advaita difference is not that. Dvaita and Advaita, the difference is the difference between you and the God. See, Dvaita tells God is different from you. You are different from God. Vishishta Advaita tells you are part of the God. And Advaita tells you and the God are one. That is the difference. So let's try to understand, right? So if you say monotheistic, this is a biblical model, the Abrahamic model of God. So when you say that, I see, very recently I see somebody was contradicting the Hindu faith. Oh, these people call us polytheistic. No, we are not polytheistic. We are monotheistic. See, you have to do the homework before you say such comments. Monotheistic means what? Per the biblical worldview or per the Abrahamic religious worldview, there is a God and you are completely separate, our Dvaita vision. So let's say that how many billions people we have in the world? 6 billion. So there are 6 billion different things. World is completely different from the God. So if you say that Hinduism is monotheistic or Advaita Vedanta is monotheistic, it is wrong.
You mean
If you say that Hinduism is polytheistic, that's also wrong. Because we don't have multiple gods. We don't have one God which is different from everything else. And there is a new terminology. There is a third category which fits for the native religions of the world, like the Mayans, the ancient, what you call the Americans and the Australians, and all these native religions. Their worldview was the world is God. So 3 different categories: monotheism, actually then polytheism, then pantheism. This is the 3 different group. Now, if you think that the Advaita Vedanta, is that going to fit into that group? Not exactly. Because, yes, if you put an equation, this pantheistic, what they think is, if you put that into an equation, God equal to world. So, sun is God, the tree is God, the plant is God, all that is good. But in other words, God equal to world, or world equal to God. Means that is there, world equal to God. Reverse it.
God equals world.
Yeah. That's where
It's wrong. Yeah.
it's wrong.
It's-
In our
Because God is not limited to this world.
yeah. So in our idea, if I put that into an equation, God equal to greater than or equal to world. Per their view, God equal to world, which is partially correct. Monotheistic, when they say that God is one, that is correct. But God is different from everything else, which is differ from the Advaita Vedanta worldview. When you say that many gods, that is not also the Advaita Vedanta point of view. So none of these model created by the Western philosophy doesn't fit or doesn't define the Advaita Vedanta. Now, Jina, go back to say the last one. Even though I exist in them, yes, world is God, but I am not confined to them. I am more than that, greater than or equal to. Just to negate that doubt, possibly thinking that somebody will come up with a model which doesn't fit me well, Krishna clarified that. But look at the profundity of our teaching. It's just amazing. It is just amazing. And I read very recently a scholar defined a new terminology. I forgot that. I'll tell you in the next class. A new Greek terminology to fit this view, which would be a correct representation, a model that fits Advaita Vedanta. Isn't it this interesting? Look at the depth. If you can imagine, like just when you read this verse, you won't get it. This amazing depth. Mayā tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ. I perverts everything. The God of the cosmos, which is the absolute reality, is talking to a person which is confined to a small world, which is only a subset of his manifestation. To a person, so imagine that the actual dreamer is talking to a person in a dream. If that is possible, if you can imagine. That is what Krishna is telling. He is telling, if I'm in the dream, I'm telling to that person, okay, you and everybody in this world is pervaded by me, but in an unmanifested form, because you cannot see me in its entirety, because I am beyond your perception, I am beyond your inference, because I am in a different order of reality. So mayā tatamidaṃ sarvaṃ jagadavyaktamūrtinā. Now, sthāni sarvabhūtāni. Every being in this world exists in me. The mountain, the plant, animal, everything. But I am much beyond that.
Excellent analogy, Rajesh. Example.
Yeah, no, this is the Krishna's example. I'm not doing. I'm only a mouthpiece, just explaining it. But are you getting the depth? My God, I cannot believe it. Actually, we are so lucky to have this tradition, and this is the beauty and the problem of the Hindu culture. The beauty is what? You have a teaching methodology, you have the model which gives you that matured vision of the God, not a childish vision of the God. When you say that you should believe this God or you will go to hell, or if you believe in this God, you will go to heaven, and in that heaven you can enjoy all the pleasures. That's not. Here is a Father in heaven, you believe it or go to hell. Or here is a like a Vaikuntha, you should go there. That's not the vision of Advaita Vedanta. And in these verses, Krishna did say that you should believe me. So we were discussing a few verses in chapter 7 and chapter 9. He didn't say you need to believe me. He just said you have to have faith and understanding. Faith means you have to have that ability to listen to the teacher and try to understand. Just understanding is required. That's why it is said in Advaita Vedanta, God need not be believed in, but to be understood properly. Bhunaji, you had a question. Sorry.
It's okay. I kind of got the answer, but I'm still wondering about the wording Swamiji used. He's saying the entire world is pervaded by me, whose form cannot be objectified. And he also brings in the term Murti and Avyakta Murti, which is which you just explained. So I got that. All beings have their being in me, and I am not based in them. That's I am not based in them. That means he's still with us, right? If our Atma is what it is supposed to be.
He's still with us, but I am not confined to them. I am not entirely, means, see, for example, the Ganga in that dream is definitely me. But am I just limited to that Ganga? That's all it means. I am much beyond that. So that's the meaning. So very clearly, Shankaracharya explains this in his commentary. He tells, I am not confined to them. The problem is some of the translations are wrong. I corrected in our stuff also. It say, they are in me, I am not in them. That is not what it means. I'm not confined to them. So that's where you need to consult the commentary of the teachers.
Yeah. I think that word confine makes it much more
Easier, better.
Yeah. So this is very beautiful. So look, means my request to all of you is take each quarter and reflect upon that. This is the ultimate. You cannot get anything beyond from Bhagavad Gita. And this is the summary of all the Upanishads. And it is crystal clear. So let's go to the next verse. Yeah, I'm not looking at the schedule for these verses. So let's cover as much as possible. So, Anu.
Nachamat bhūtāni pasya me yogamayishvaram bhuta bhrinna cha bhūtasthah mamatma bhuta bhavana.
Okay, so look at this first verse. What Krishna tells. Can you chant, Anu, this one first line?
Nachamat bhūtāni.
Good. Go back to the previous one. What is the third line?
Sthāni sarvabhūtāni.
What is that? One place he says, Masthāni sarvabhūtāni. In the other place, what is he saying?
Nachamat bhūtāni.
Extremely opposite. Isn't it contradiction?
Mhm.
No, it's deliberate. It's very deliberate insertions, just to understand the full scope. So that's why I started the discussion by clearly clarifying what is transcendent and what is immanent. Okay, so let's try to understand the verse. He tells, Nacha Masthāni bhūtāni. So he tells, again, the translation is, not all being confined in me or confined to me, right? So then we'll try to, I'm going to explain this in detail, okay? Then he tells, Pashyame yogamaishwaryam. Oh, students, just try to see the power of my yoga. The Aishwarya means control, overlordship. Look at the power of my yogic power. See, in the previous verse, he said, every being exists in me. In other words, here he said, no being exists in me. Let's use that terminology here. Then he tells, Bhuta Bhrith. Bhuta Bhrith. What is Bhuta Bhrith? The creator of all beings, right? Then he tells, Na cha bhutasya, bhutastha, na cha bhutastha. He tells, I am not in them. That is one thing. And then he tells, Anu, can you chant the last line?
Mamatma bhuta bhavana.
Yeah. So he tells, yet he tells, I am not in them, but I am the creator and sustainer of all being. It's a complete pair of contradiction. We need to understand this in detail. We need to understand this in detail. So let's try to understand. Let's go one by one. So,
Okay.
yeah, you can chant the first line.
Nachamat bhūtāni.
Yes. Nacha masthāni bhūtāni. Really speaking, no being exists in me. In which order he is talking?
Transcend.
Exactly. As a waker, is there any dream objects existing in me?
No.
Nothing.
But why did he made it so complex?
No, because you need to understand the two natures. See, if I say that I exist in all being, that is true. Where I exist in all being? In the immanent world. Think through that. But the previous verse, it is made it very clear. Even though I am the one who is the immanent world, I am avyaktamūrti. I am in an unmanifested form. So if you really look at the transcendent as a whole, right, you are doing through a two different viewpoint. So when you look at the first verse was completely, you are looking at the immanent world. When you look at the immanent world, what you are seeing, let me make it very clear, like you are looking at the dream. So let's say that as a third party, you have the ability to see my dream. Okay, let's think through that. So you can see me lying on the bed, but let's say that you have a glass, and when you look at through that glass, you can see my dream. Imagine that fictitious scenario. Now you are looking at the dream. So when you look at the dream, I can say that, yeah, Rajesh exists in that all objects. How does he exist in all objects? In an unmanifested form, right? And then he tells, I can tell that all the objects in that dream, in that world I see through that glass, is in Rajesh. But you can clearly say that he is beyond that dream. So verse number 1 is clearly explained. Now you change the vision from that dream to the other order of reality. So the first verse is completely an explanation looking at the world.
So
And the second verse is an explanation completely looking at the transcendent order. So you're trying to explain the transcendent from the point of view of the immanent, that is verse number 1. And then you are trying to look at the immanent from the point of view of the, by pivoting yourself in the transcendent. So that's the difference between the verse. So in the transcendent form, there is no attributes for the God. There is no form. There is no beings there. What exists is only truth, absolute reality, Sat Chit Ananda, nothing. There is no world, there is no plurality, nothing. So from that point, he can say that there is no beings, there is only absolute reality. We will come back to this next week. We will go line by line. We will have a long, means I have 2-3 examples, which makes this point very clear. But today, at least I wanted to make sure that that first verse is clear. So I know that we couldn't go to the second verse in detail, but let's recap the first verse. So you're looking at the world and you're saying that mayā sarvamidaṃ sarvaṃ. The God pervades everything in the universe. How? In the form of avyaktamūrti. Avyaktamūrti means you cannot get, understand through the sense organs. That means sthāni sarvabhūtāni. Every being exists in God. cāhaṃ teṣvavasthitaḥ. I am not confined to them. Is that much clear? The next verse, don't worry, we will pick up next week. Maybe we can cover only one verse next week also, but it is worth. It is really worth these 4 verses.
So Rajesh,
Yeah.
so when we say Sat Chit Anand, the Sat refers to the transcendent word nature of the word.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So Sat Chit Ananda refers to the Para Brahman.
Parad-
Para Brahman. Para Brahman means Param means supreme. It is the So in Vedanta, we have three orders of reality. One is called Paramarthika Satyam, absolute reality, and God in that absolute reality is known as Parabrahman. Then we have Vyavaharika Satya, transactional or relative reality, and that is where we call it as Ishvara. And the upcoming verses is going to, it's how he builds this concept is so beautiful. In the next verse, he uses another example. Another verse, he talks about the creation and dissolution. If you study these 6 verses, you will get the complete Vedic vision of God.
So what was the third Satyam? What was the third Satya?
Pradipasika Satyam, illusionary reality. The dream is an example, or daydream is an example, or mistaken. For example, when I see a snake, a rope, I see a snake. That is also Pradiphasikam.
Satyam. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Paramatmikam is second.
No, Paramarthikam is first. Paramarthikam means.
Paramatmikam is first.
No, Paramarthikam. Param Artha.
Okay.
Artha means destination. Param means supreme. The ultimate destination or the absolute truth is Paramarthika Satyam. Vyavaharika Satyam means it is true only in this space and time. Relative reality. And Pradipasika Satyam means it is only in your mind. But still it's a Satyam. So how do you feel about this verse?
Very nice. A lot of internalization is required.
Yeah. This verse, we cannot study with a book. This was my experience.
Yes, definitely. I referred to many books. I did not understand the 4 and 5 verses. But I was looking forward for your session for these 2.
Yeah, so we may take one session each for each of these verses, but it is worth. That's why I said, like, excuse me, we cannot meet our goal of 3 verses for these 6 verses. And actually, this chapter has so many verses, like the Yoga Chemam Muhamiham, that verse. Very simple, loose translations.
So Rajesh, this for explaining 9.4, the Swapna Drishtantam, so that is like the stock example usually like used by Shankara or something.
Yes, this is a stock example of Shankara. So see, if you really means when we did the introduction to Vedanta, we studied all the different teaching methodology, right? The Panchakosha, the Swapna Drishtanta, Avastatraya, then
Drigdrishya
Viveka. Every teaching uses one of these 2. This is good enough.
Yeah.
And that's why we studied each of those methodologies separately. So when we study Upanishads or Bhagavad Gita, it will give us the necessary tools to learn. And as I said earlier, the beauty of the Vedanta is not what it teaches, but the teaching methodology, because these type of powerful teaching methodology is going to help us to understand this very well. And this example is what Shankaracharya uses continuously in chapter 7 and chapter 9, Swapna Drishtanta. Most powerful metaphor to understand the God, the transcendent and immanent. So another thing is, when you look at the commentary, you don't see this introduction that we gave, right? Without understanding the transcendent and immanent aspect, this you lose it for sure, this chapter. So with that introduction only, you can go to this chapter. Imagine, without understanding transcendent and immanent nature of God, if you read the commentary, gone.
Yeah, and the introduction to that Upanishads, I think that was very good. Like we are borrowing that all the tools from that.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? But feel proud of your culture. It's so ekam sat vipra bahuta vadanti. It's beautiful, beautiful. Like there, the word sat means it really speaking, right? So these verses are context sensitive. So there is a famous Rig Veda statement. I'm just quoting out because in our last event, Swami Chidananda Puri was asked this question and his answer was brilliant. He didn't call that out separately, but I'm calling out for you. So Swami Suryananda was asking him to explain what is this ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. If you really look at the preceding verses and the following verses of Rig Veda talks about many deities, right? It talks about Indra, it talks about Varuna, it talks about all these deities. And we saw who is a deity in the 3rd chapter of the Gita. So after saying that there are many deities, this mantra tells, even though there are many deities, the God is only one. There the Sat indicates God or the truth. There is only one truth, even though there are multiple manifestations. So that's what it is. So that's why we need to do a little bit of homework before we quote these mantras. And Swami Chidananda Puri brilliantly explained that portion. He quoted that exact context and explained it. So it was very good.
And also that was the most misunderstood verse also, I think, right?
Yeah, and Vipra means not Brahman, right? Some people say that Brahmins call it as many. No. So the moment you study Gita, these Brahmanas and everything will go away. Who is a Pandita? Remember the 5th chapter definition? The one who sees a dog and a dog eater and a spiritual seeker and an elephant and a cow. Same. Pandita Samadarshina. Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
There is one question. In this, like a two reality we are talking about, right? Immanent and transcendent nature. Is it something we are trying to see, or when we are trying to get that mukti, right? Jivan mukti, are we trying to go beyond our reach and trying to see that transcendent nature? And is it something like if we are not able to connect the two reality, how we are able to get that mukti?
Right. No, that's a good question, Deva. So the idea is when you are confined to a space and a time or a particular order of reality, you won't get to know the other order of reality in a typical way. So Jivan Mukti means you are trying to understand your real identity. So let's say that I am in the dream and I'm going through a lot of pain, right? My leg got broken and I'm crying. But that is why the Swapna Drishtanta is so powerful. There is a kind of dream called lucid dream. What is that lucid dream? Even though I'm dreaming, I know that I'm dreaming. I know my real identity, but still I'm doing the dream. So Jivan Mukti is compared in our scriptures like a lucid dream. Even though you are within that time and space, the moment you become lucid, the dream becomes lucid. Even if your leg is broken or your head is going to break, you are not worried. Because I know that I have an existence beyond that dream. So Jivan Mukti is only means I am getting an expanded awareness about myself. Because when I was in the dream, usually my understanding about myself was I am this dream body, dream mind. The moment I get an expanded awareness of who I am, that is going to put an end to all my suffering. Jivan Mukti is only that much.
But it is really like, how would you not feel about the current state, knowing the other true state? That is, I don't know. how to comprehend that.
See, right now, imagine that in a dream, somebody is saying that there is another Anu, which is beyond this time and space. You may say that, oh, it's hard to believe. But when the dream becomes lucid, it's natural. So right now, you cannot comprehend it because we are in that dream. So go beyond that dream and we will get it. And hundreds of people have verified it again and again and again. And that's why Vivekananda said to Rockefeller, it is going to help you to die peacefully. How can you help me to live this life? He said, I have enough money. Vivekananda said, it's help you to die peacefully. That's because everybody is afraid of death.
No, I feel more than, at least I feel like, more than us, around people around us would feel more missing the person.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you are right. But imagine this. If somebody passes away, if you know that that person exists somewhere, but you cannot see him, is that better? Or if you think that that person is gone forever? The first option is better.
No,
So,
yeah, first option is definitely better.
Better. And that is what it tells, right? The
But
death
then again,
means,
it's a transcendent world, right?
Death is not an end of that person. That is what it is. These are high grade subjects. Slowly, it helps you to face the realities of life. Now, on the other side, right? If you think that if the other means, if you are dependent of one, there are certain facts you cannot change. See, in the Vyavaharika world, relative world, nobody is beyond death. Even avatars, Krishna or Rama or Jesus, or everybody had to die. It's a fact. What you can do is extend your life maybe up to 120 years. But can you show me one person who has gone beyond that? Exceptions might be there, one or two people, but how much you can stretch? Bhishma, who was supposed to have one of the longest life, even he had to go away. So Krishna tells what? Ashocyan anna shochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasun agatasumscha na anushochanti pandidaha. He didn't say that you won't worry. Yes, you will worry when you don't see a person whom you are interacting with passes away. Definitely you will worry, but you won't. It is not the end of the world. You have to understand that, and life has to move on. So that is the teaching. So let's explore this more in the next week, but please contemplate upon this one verse, and we will pick up the thread next week, pivoting the Brahman, the transcendent nature. So now we looked at the world and tried to understand transcendent and immanent. And now we are going to shift our view from the immanent to transcendent and try to see the immanent from the point of view of the transcendent. That is the difference between these two verses. No words in this chapter is accidental. Every word is very deliberate. So please understand that. I just wanted to point out the contradiction, but everything is deliberate. Okay. So Bhuvanaji, if you look at Swamiji's commentary, he has spent some 8 or 9 pages on this verse, 2 verses. You can see that.
I'm reading that.
Yeah. Okay. So
no, I only had a doubt with that based word. because confined seems to be better there. So
Confinements, I deliberately didn't use that base.
yeah,
I
that's
used-
why I liked it
Yeah.
because I'm like, it's not what is based, what doesn't make sense. And then when you told, then I could just
Yeah,
change that word.
I had to go back to.
He also talks about all this sarvabhūtāni,
Yeah.
all types of bhutanis.
I had to go back to
Shankara.
Shankaras.
But he also did Shankaras, right? Swamiji also referred Shankaras.
Of course, but some English word, right? You need to pick up the appropriate word.
I want to see what is written in Tamil because Brahmalinanda, Swamini Brahmalinanda has written in Tamil. So I will go check that also. That.
But the ideal word is confined in English.
Confined
At least
is
whatever I
correct.
can see.
Very good. Very nice. Because
Okay.
my understanding is Swamiji also referred Adi Shankara's commentary and then only
He followed very line by line Shankara's commentary.
Shankara's commentary.
But if you read his explanation, it is very clear that he's talking about the word confined. Dependence is, he uses a word a lot in that commentary called dependent. I am not dependent upon the world. That is the word he uses multiple times.
Very nice.
Okay, so Bhunaji, would you do the chanting?
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavaseshyate. Om Shantis Shantis Shantihi. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Any questions, please post in the WhatsApp group. But please contemplate upon this because this is
Rajaji,
very
I'm
good.
just reminding you to check my personal message to your. You have not seen.
Yeah, I saw that actually. Sorry about that.
No
I
problem.
just need to find that video. I couldn't
No
find that
problem.
video.
I was looking at. I was just since I started with this, I was just looking at Sarvapriya. Oh my God, it's so confusing. It's going everywhere. You know, yours were very crisp, so I thought I.
No, don't say that.
No, because I listened to 2-3 people, and I remember listening to you, so I thought I'll check with you before.
Definitely, I'll find that video.
Sarvapriyananda talks about all. He's going everywhere, right? So
You'll get it.
thank you anyway.